No, it's going now.
No.
Sorry. Put it up unless it's somebody's. Right now. Everybody good here? Okay, so thank you all for coming. Good morning. Yeah, so please hold your questions to the end. And then we'll do, there's many more here today, but like we did last time, I'll get to everybody, but I'll point, raise your hand, and I'll point to you at the end, and I'll make sure I get everybody. Okay? We won't leave till we get everybody. Okay? So first, I'm so sorry for all involved, especially the families of the unaccounted for, and anybody that's been displaced. My heartfelt condolences on behalf of the city go out to those involved. Thank you all for coming. We're a bit over the 36-hour mark now, since the beginning of 324 Main partially collapsed. This is an active incident that is very fluid and ever evolving. Our command staff is coordinating information as available in real time and developing the incident accordingly. We are consistently evaluating and getting real-time information. I want to first acknowledge also yesterday evening, a very happy event. Miss Lisa Brooks was rescued from the fourth story of the building. I am so thankful that she was found safe and alive. The immediate question I know people are asking is, how did she get there, and why wasn't she found earlier? I am totally transparent with you. I do not know. We do not know, but understand, please, that I and the city is committed to finding out why. I'm going to be moving to other speakers here in a moment, but know that I am very interested in that particular issue also. The last many days, and especially yesterday, the Davenport Police Department has been working diligently to account for the known occupants of the building. Chief Blado will speak in a moment on that particular effort, but at this time we have 5 individuals that are still unaccounted for. 2 of those we believe to be possibly still in the building. We understand that this is an unthinkable situation, especially for the families that are involved and impacted by this event. Last night, the Davenport Fire Department, Davenport Police Department met with the families of the 2 particular unaccounted for folks that we believe might be in the building. Our community stands with these families and supports them. And again, my heart goes out to the families of the people that are unaccounted for. We want to update today the community, and thank you for helping with that, on the efforts that have been taken over the past 36 hours. A lot of work has been done, and you're going to hear about that. And there is a lot of work that remains to be done. We are committed to that work. I'm going to turn this over to Chief Blado in a moment, but understand we are committed. I am so happy to have some of my colleagues here to my left from the City Council, and so happy to have the leaders and people that are doing the work that are committed to this. I know there's a lot of discussion about nothing's happening. That is not true, and you're going to hear about that. So thank you. You'll hear from many speakers, so again, please wait to the end. I'll come back up at the end, and then we'll go through a respective way to get all your questions addressed. Chief Blado.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Chief Jeff Blado of the Davenport Police Department. So early on in the incident, the Davenport Police Department worked with Red Cross, building owners, building property managers, family and friends to compile a list of individuals or possible tenants within the building. We utilized all of our investigative resources and continued to work with not only our local but our state, and even went door to door to try to work on those efforts to identify and actually locate people. Based on the consolidated information at this time, as the mayor said, we have 5 that are unaccounted for, and 2 that we have a firm belief that are potentially still in that building. We've utilized we continue to attempt to verify every bit of information that we receive and continue to work with the other agencies who have information regarding who might be within that list. Additionally, last night, again, as the mayor said, and I'll confirm, we had a city contingency meet with 2 families and provide them a personal debrief of where we were at with the situation, what we're doing, and how we can continue to work with this. So again, this is a tragedy. This is a horrific event that our community has never experienced before. We have a number of individuals within our community that are impacted, people displaced, family members that are still missing. So we ask our community to continue to rally around the families, continue to rally around the process, and we'll continue to provide updates when we can do that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I am Mike Carlston, Fire Chief of the Davenport Fire Department. I'd like to provide you a little bit of update of what we have done so far. As everyone knows, a recap here, a little before 5 on Sunday, May 28th, the Davenport Fire Department responded to a report of a building collapse. Our crews arrived on scene and found a 6th-floor apartment complex with partial collapse at the rear side of the building. Quickly, our crews began rescue operations within the first hour. Within that first hour, we had 7 reported rescues that we had and over a dozen individuals that we are able to help out of the building. We are very thankful for the efforts of law enforcement, Medic EMS, and all the fire agencies for their hard work. This was truly a team effort. It was not just the Davenport Fire Department that made this happen and got in there to make this work. We went through the building. Primary searches were completed throughout the building. We contacted our regional technical rescue team, and they responded to the scene to assist with rescue operations. We had over 150 trained professionals, including fire, police, EMS, medical staff, and city staff, respond within the first 12 hours of this incident. These crews coordinated with the Davenport Fire Department, and we quickly began a secondary search of the facility. Through these efforts, a 8th victim was located and extricated. Due to the nature of her injuries and entrapment, the extrication took an extended period of time. During this time, crews were able to complete a secondary search of the building. We also contacted the Iowa Task Force 1 Urban Search and Rescue Team out of Cedar Rapids Division. They responded to the scene with over 25 individuals and assisted with rescue operations. These rescue operations included a second structural and situational evaluation. Part of the Iowa Task Force response included multiple searches throughout the building and the debris pile, with 6 specially trained service animals checking for live victims and any human remains. Based on the information provided through multiple searches and other methods, including canines, drones, thermal imaging, infrared, and trained rescuers, no confirmed viable signs of life were noted at that time. We continue to evaluate the structural stability of the building and are focused on the investigative aspect of locating unaccounted for individuals. At this time, I'd like to introduce Miss Amy Anderson. She is a family member of Ryan Hitchcock. Mr. Hitchcock is one of our unaccounted for individuals at this time.
Hi, thank you for taking my statement and allowing me to speak. First off, I would like to say that I completely wanted to come and make my voice heard on behalf of Ryan. I was extremely close with him, and I would know that he would want what I'm about to say. We did meet with the city last night and did get a lot more information and was able to speak through our concerns with them. And in leaving last night, I was completely just kind of mortified about the protests and the people, raising a voice and they don't know Ryan. They don't know our family. The city does have a plan, and pushing any delays is one more day that he's under there. Going through all of this, Ryan wouldn't want anyone else to put their lives at risk to, unfortunately, somebody who probably has not survived. I don't discount that he could be trapped under there miraculously. We've seen some miraculous things, and our God is good, but we don't want to see any more families lose their lives or anybody else be injured in trying to remove that rubble and have anything fall. We would like to see the city, what their plan is to kind of take it out piece by piece. They have given us our word that they are going to treat that already collapsed area with sensitivity to the remains that are underneath of there and excavate them as soon as possible and recover them. That's really what we want. We do not want a full-on demolition or a full-on delay for that building to even collapse more and put more rubble on top of them, which then would make things longer and more unlikely that there's any survivors underneath of there. So I plead with our community just to let the city do their job. Right now it is an absolute no-win situation, but this is the best plan of attack. And we don't want anyone else hurt. And we just want to recover, our family. So Ryan he loved Jesus, and we know he's with the Lord. And we just pray that you would respect our family's wishes and what he would want. And we absolutely do not want this to escalate into something that gets more intense and more violent. It is the last thing this community needs right now. We just need to be pulling together and focusing on who has already lost, what we can provide them, and support the city in their best efforts to take that building down safely and recover what's already underneath of there. I just plead with you guys just to stop. Just proceed in love, proceed in giving, proceed in hope and support and prayers. And that's what we need. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Assistant Chief Jim Morris. I serve as the city's fire marshal. This morning I spoke with technical rescue personnel regarding the viability of an additional search of this building. It is our goal to be able to conduct a search for additional occupants and any pets that still remain inside. We are currently working with technical rescue teams to determine the best options to provide an additional search. Our search teams are currently deployed on site and evaluating the building. As has been noted since day one that we've responded there, that building is unstable and it continues to worsen as time progresses. During the initial search, the building continued to shift as crews were on site. It's incredibly important that we're diligently coordinating with structural engineers and our rescue teams on the best way to proceed. It's the opinion of the structural engineer that any additional search operations in the area of that piled debris should be avoided due to potential collapse. We are currently evaluating the risk assessment of where we can go back into that building to do this other search. We're very sympathetic to the possibility that there's two people. That there's two people still left inside. sorry. We are partnering with other entities as well as our department to respectfully remove any possible human remains with dignity. As the assistant chief, it's extremely difficult when you can't run up to a pile of bricks and rocks and just start throwing things off. As much as we want to get everybody out, and we want to do it right now. I apologize that I get upset, but there's a lot of things that we have to factor. So understand, it's not that we don't want to do this, it's the fact that we have to do it in a safe manner. And at this point, we're going to reevaluate how safe we can be in order to get in there and not currently make the situation any worse. This building, as Chief Carlson talked before, Iowa Task Force 1 came in here. That's our state's regional expert team that came in here for urban search and rescue. And they, too, agreed with us that this building is extremely volatile. This building does need to come down, and it needs to come down in a controlled manner so that we do not create any more damage or lives lost. Thank you.
My name's Larry Sanhas. I'm a structural engineer with Shive Hattery. I got a call late Sunday night from city staff asking me to come out and provide some engineering advice on the site during the recovery and rescue. I've been up for most of 36 hours. I've been working with other engineers, with the first responders, the fire and police, and I think I wanted to go over a little bit about the building and what's going on with that. Straightforward answer to the question. The building was built in the early 1900s. Okay, it's over 100 years old, and the building is made of brick and steel. Okay, it was built in a way that was state of the art at the time, but it is not a new building. And the brick on the outside holds the steel frame inside up, and at the same time the steel of the building holds the brick up. So when you lose the brick, you lose the stability of the building, and there's a danger. The building is in imminent danger of collapse, as it did on Sunday. That we were just looking out the window, seeing additional pieces of the roof tending toward wanting to fall. So I was watching the dogs in the early hours of Monday morning, and just thinking about, you know, the handlers and hoping that they would get on that pile and come off and be safe. The condition of the building is worsening over time. I just saw that. It's brittle, it's non-redundant, and it's difficult to say how soon it will continue to collapse. But the way the building was built, with short pieces of steel, depending upon the exterior brick for stability, that's not how you build a modern building. You have less chance. You had 5 stories collapsed into one almost immediately. And that, so the 5 stories are sitting on the first floor and the basement. Okay, that reduces the chances that there will be spaces, what we call void spaces, large spaces where people can survive. So the removal of the debris pile itself is helping to hold the building up. Okay? The debris pile itself is helping to hold the building up. So you want to do that with care. Okay? We're bringing in a laser scanning drone crew. I've been working back with folks at the office. I've been working with folks in EMS, and the first responders had their own structural engineer who came out in the middle of the night from the other side of Iowa. He came up and agreed with the same conclusion I had when I came to that site and was horrified. Be careful. Be careful, because this building is going to collapse. This building is going to collapse at its own time. Okay? So we're bringing in survey equipment, and we're bringing in the drone, and we're bringing in a crew, and I'm depending upon the good folks back that are supporting me to document the condition of that building. We're going to try and build a complete digital 3D model using a scanning drone to assess the condition of it, assess the prospect of future collapse, and help ultimately the city to figure out, the what's, the where's, and the why's. But it's too soon right now for that. The best thing that I can do to serve the city at this time and the victims, my heart goes out for the victims. It is difficult to participate in this, but it is necessary. I go to schools and tell young people about civil engineering. I say it's for the people, and this is when you go and do it, is when the city and the people need you. So with that, that's all I have. Back to the mayor. Thank you.
Okay, almost time for questions. I know you're interested. So just a quick wrap up from me a little bit. I know there's been concern of investigation. What are you doing? So I just want to say this publicly. Documentation, videos, photos, logs from respected folks that are keeping everything will be turned over to an investigation team. The lead of that team is yet to be determined, but we are in consult with state officials on the proper course of action to do that. That will happen. We're committed to do that. There's a lot of things to gather and more yet to gather, but that's a commitment you'll have that we are going to do that. I want to have a little call to action, and I want to thank the community, the reaching out of how can I provide this or that or water or food or whatever. Please, 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 everything go to the Red Cross. They are coordinating the effort for the displaced folks, everything else. That's where it needs to go, the shelters. Please reach out to the Red Cross. We are grateful for the community support, and there's been a lot of it. They've reached out to me, mayors from across the state, legislatures, our congresswomen, senators. I've talked to the governor 4 times in the last 2 days. She has signed the declaration, $5,500 per person per displaced, based on if you were part of that. We're going to find some city money to help. We are using every avenue and every level of assistance, and it is being graciously accepted. The outpouring from all levels, at the federal level, state level, local level, county level, individual level, community level, to assist, I am so thankful for. But as people continue to decide and how to give, how to help, the Red Cross is the place to go. I appreciate the outpouring of support to our first responders, the bringing and showing up of truckloads of stuff, food, water, Gatorade, etc. It is extremely appreciated. But from this point forward, please put your efforts into the Red Cross and to the displaced people. That's who needs to be helped. We'll take care of the other folks. Again, thankful to Governor Reynolds and thankful to our legislative folks, Congresswoman Miller Meeks, Senator Ernst, Senator Grassley, the county supervisors, my respective mayors in the Quad Cities, the mayors across the state. Just got off the phone with the Cedar Rapids Mayor O'Donnell. The outpouring, I said I wasn't going to do it, you made me. Sorry. The outpouring of support, the outpouring of help, the outpouring of action with the whole purpose, just like I said in a previous press conference, the outpouring of support that I've seen that our first responders and our fire going in the building immediately after this thing collapsed, irrespective of their own safety, irrespective of what might or might not happen, with the sole purpose of helping and finding folks. Multiple people going in, multiple teams. And you heard the talk about the state folks mobilizing semi-truckloads full of equipment. And if any of you were here yesterday morning watching that litany of equipment, all of those folks arriving here in the middle of the night, immediately assessing and going into where can I go, and getting into that building from different perspectives, working with our first responders, and then taking the dogs in and doing their work with the sole purpose of knowing that thing is unsafe, but I'm going in anyway. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about giving some people some grief about what we're doing. These heroes that are going in these buildings, get off of that. You want to come at somebody, here, I'm standing right in front of you. Here's the target. These are not. These are the people that are saving lives. So thank you for that. I'll take questions. Raise your hand. I'll point. I'll start right to left. Ma'am, Maggie.
Maggie Besworth, NBC News. Thank you.
And if there's anybody I need to direct, or if you want particular, we'll do that.
Sure, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for giving your perspective. With all due respect to Ryan's family, obviously there are people out there who feel different. We're hearing a lot of them in here. And you said, I know people want to know, like, how was Lisa Brooks missed? But I'm wondering more broadly, people might be wondering, how did we go from plans to demolish this morning? Like, how did we have a plan to demolish this morning, and now there's no timeline, and we're saying 5 are missing and 2 maybe in here? Like, for those who that just doesn't compute, and kind of how was that seemingly missed to that degree early on?
So,
What can you tell them?
so at least from my perspective, and so the plan to set up to get in position to demolish was to happen today, to set the stage. Actually putting the physical demolishment to happen today, I don't think that's ever. We're continuing to evaluate. If anybody wants to add to that, Chief.
Again, Jim Morse, Fire Marshal. So when we originally had evaluated the scene, we didn't have the indications, even from the state teams, from the canine dogs in there, that would make us proceed. We were not looking at instantaneously pulling that building down, but it's either going to come down on its own, which we do not want, but we also want to make sure it's in a controlled manner. We're receiving new information. The fire department pulled Lisa Brooks out of that apartment last night. That right there is an indicator that we need to go up there. That was a viable indication that we need to address this. So that's why we're moving forward with reevaluating, getting additional search teams in there to be able to do that. We had no other. We used all of our tools. We used all of Iowa Task Force 1's tools and technology to assess that, and that's why we're moving forward with the way we are now.
Sir.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you could speak more to why perhaps the dogs might have missed Lisa.
I don't know that we have an. I don't know that we have an answer to that. And you heard me say it. That question I'm getting a lot. I don't know. Believe me, though, I want to know. Okay, and so does everybody else. We want to know. All I can tell you is I'm committed to finding out. Sir in the back.
What is the name of the owner? Has the city been in contact with the owner, and is the owner under any criminal investigation as you put together that team?
I know the owner. He was on site Sunday. I saw him. I don't know if you want to speak any more about that.
So yes, the city has been in contact with the building owner. We are currently consulting with state agencies to figure out who is going to take the lead in this investigation. But at this time, we have not got to the point where we have determined if a criminal offense has occurred in order to initiate a criminal investigation. Regardless of what happens, there will be an investigation into how this happened. There must be.
Sorry, what's the owner's name?
Andrew Wold, W-O-L-D.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
If this building, we just had the structural engineer talk about how bricks was falling off of the building. If this building was not, it was seen as unsafe, why were residents allowed to still in this? How did this building pass inspection?
Sorry, I'm just going to stay up here.
Yeah, I'll just stay next to each other.
Apologize. So there was initial issues with the building. A structural engineer's report was provided to the city to outline the work that was done. It was determined that it was safe by the structural engineer, which was not hired by us. It was hired by the owner of the building, and they would be able to provide that report in order for us to make a determination to continue to occupy the building.
Okay. We'll go back and then we'll come back this way. So, yes, Jen.
So yesterday at the 7 a.m. press conference, we talked about how at that point there was no credible information that people were missing or unaccounted for. Then at 9:45 you sent the press release, and at that time it said there are people unaccounted for. Twofold question here. So was there new information provided after that press conference that allowed you guys to know that there were people who were unaccounted for? And then the second question, part of that, we're saying 5 unaccounted for, 2 probably in the building. Are the 2 part of that 5?
Yes, and that was part of the reason for our message yesterday morning at 7 o'clock is because we were asking for people to actually call in. We needed to have that investigative aspect and that additional information so we could start getting an accurate list. Information we had early on was conflicting, and so that's why we actually wanted to have people that had the best possible information, work closely with law enforcement over the last 24 hours so that we have a better idea of actually who is unaccounted for at this time.
In the back, ma'am.
Sorry, my other question was, are the 2 people who are probably in the building, are they part of that 5 unaccounted for, or are they an addition?
Yes, there are a part of the 5, so 5.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a 2-parter too, Mike. First one is, it seems like the city's in a really tough position where it's having to weigh the safety of first responders against the possibility of somebody still being alive in the building. How do you make, what factors do you use to make decisions like that in this case? And
I
mean, that's got to be.
I appreciate your understanding of that. So probably nothing more hard is understanding that we, especially they, want to do everything they can to be in there in every possible place, one of the victims, and I'll try and say this very generally, was in a place that is unbelievably dangerous to get out. Those folks didn't care about that. Their focus was to go and do that and save the life. Surgeons from this community were in the building exercising trauma surgery in the building, saving lives. So for me and our respective team, understanding that the effort of the first responders and other medical professionals to go and do everything they can, and the risk analysis for me and our respective leadership, knowing from our abroad, as you saw, people from across the state coming to advise us on the structural capability of that. Can I allow that? I don't know that I've still am struggling with that, right? But that's what we're doing. And through the great work of Chief Morris and the Mabus team, who are willing to do this, and we are working through that to do this, and our want is to do this. There is a continual evaluation and want to go in again. We are evaluating that, but you're right, that's me. And and our respective leadership to decide, if we're based on all the experts. So I appreciate you understanding that, sir. You had one more, man.
Yeah,
and
does
then
the city have a plan? What happens if the building comes down?
then we are going to
Within
do.
our control what?
Yep. Then we have talked in depth about being the respectful dignity piece, knowing that this could be a place of rest for some of the unaccounted. We are investigating and evaluating as best as we can with a lot of assistance from places other than here, and reaching out to other places that have experienced this to do what we can to be as respectful and dignified to what that is, a place of rest. That would then be the focus. And we are already working through that, sir.
The structural engineer report that the building owner provided to the city, how long ago was that provided? And will that, what engineering firm provided that report?
Good, Rich. Tell me.
So Rich Oswald, Development Neighborhood Services Director. So the engineering firm was Select Structural Engineering out of Bettendorf. So they actually provided two engineering reports within the last 6 months. One the end of January, then one here last week. What the city asked was that in January they let us know the building is structurally sound, or they would have to vacate it. They came back and said the building was structurally sound at that time, and they went with the belief that it was safe to have tenants in there. So we've asked that numerous times.
Okay, we'll go back this way, and then I'll come back. I'm sorry, you didn't finish here.
Yeah, Mayor, do we have an accurate count as how many people live there, and we're just down to 5 and 2 unaccounted for? I mean, what number did we start with?
I think we're still working on it.
I think we're still working with you guys.
So our numbers were around 53 for the tenant list. We know that there's 80 units in that building. So again, we got 3 different sources of people who lived in that building, and that's where we cross-reference our lists.
So 53 is sort of a reasonable number at this moment, because we're still not quite sure?
Right, yes.
Okay, and 50 and the 5 are from that 53?
Yes.
And there have been, that is, I will credit the police and chief's folks. We have been given multiple lists, multiple numbers, and the scrutiny to make sure we get this right has been an intense task that they've been involved in. So I'll go back to this way, and we'll go back across again. Sir.
Hey, Zachary Aaron Smith, IPR News. My question's about the 2 reports filed in January and then 2 weeks ago. One, I wanted to see if the city's going to make those available, and then 2, I wanted to know a little bit about what started that process. What was it exactly that incited those 2 reports to be issued?
Sure. So I believe we'll make those available, right? So what started was we had some veneer brick popping on the back of the wall. So then that's when our chief building official and building staff went in, and then they required the first report. The second report started with they had some more veneer brick falling, so we asked for another report.
And in response to the second report, I mean, was the city satisfied with what this structural engineer hired by the firm, hired by the landlord to investigate? Was the city satisfied?
So the chief building official was satisfied with what the engineer requested the repairs and how the repairs were to be made.
It's a bit of a messaging question, so I hope you'll allow it. People out there feel like someone failed them. Did the city fail them? Did the owner fail them? Like, who failed them? Because they just think there's no way that this is not the result of at least one failure, and they're feeling.
So my hearts are out to them. I can only say, from my perspective, I think I can speak on behalf of the city. The responders, the people that do the work, we have city council folks here, staff, we do everything we can to try and ensure safety. we require things like engineering reports. As soon as something is identified, investigating to see that people are doing what they're supposed to do, i.e. what Mr. Oswald just said. We will continue to do that, and we will continue to understand what that is and do the best we can to move forward with whatever it is, whether it's handing everything over to an investigator so that an outside person is looking into whatever happened. We want that answer too, so we will continue to do it, and that's all I can.
But as their mayor, do you feel like the city failed them when we're talking about these investigations? And they say it's pretty clear there were huge cracks in the walls. Like they feel like they didn't need an engineer.
I totally understand what they're saying. We require engineers and experts to evaluate things, just like we require experts in other fields to evaluate things. We will keep after that, and we owe them moving forward what happened to do our best to get answers for folks. Mayor.
Some people are upset they can't retrieve their belongings. Is there any possible way to have first responders, other people retrieve those for them?
So I won't speak to belongings, but I know the question of pets has come up and others. We've worked with the Humane Society, are working with the Humane Society to identify all of that to the best of our ability. And Chief might talk, but if, we fully understand if we go back in, and we're trying to do that, to work to get those things out. In belongings, I don't think we're going to allow individuals to go back into that dangerous situation.
Even first responders?
First responders might go back in, but first responders will be going back in to see if we can save lives.
Could somebody talk a little bit more about what a controlled demolition process would look like? Would that involve explosives or taking a building apart?
So no, as the fire marshal, I will not allow them to use explosives in a heavily populated downtown area. This would be a coordinated demolition, methodically. There's a lot of weight load on that rooftop there with chillers, air conditioning units, utilities, that kind of thing. So we are in the process of meeting with contractors to be able to basically disassemble that building and do it safely.
And do you have a timeline for that of how long you want to continue potentially searching the building?
I do not. Again, this is fluid and flexible. This building shifted when we were operating in there, and each time we were in there, it shifted at some point. So we could walk out of this room right now, and that building could only have 20 minutes on top of it. So we need to evaluate what we see between the structural engineer, our technical rescue teams, and formulate the best possible way to strategically go in there.
Sir?
Very quick one. The 3 others out of the 5 who are unaccounted for, the 3 others, any hints or any idea of where they are if they're not likely to be in the building?
Yeah, so we're continuing that investigation piece. So the list that we had, some may have been an old tenant list. So we're checking to make sure that they're actually in that building. We have reason to believe they're in that building. So we're continuing that piece, and we'll continue to piece that until we can exhaust all measures.
Right across. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yep.
My question is about resident complaints again. It seems like from previous press conferences, it sounded like you guys were familiar with this property based on resident complaints. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, so the City of Davenport, our rental inspection program, so any resident complaint would be investigated by a rental inspector. If something was found in violation or needed repair, they would send out an official notice and order of what needed to be fixed, and then that would be followed up on until the building was in, whatever that repair was, in compliance. So being that size of a building, it undergoes a rental inspection every 2 years. So.
Jenna, and then.
Talking just back on the demolition aspect of it, would there be, and this might be too early to determine at this point, but would there be an effort to demolish it away from that pile of rubble so that you could then later go back into that pile of rubble to search for remains? Do you want to say?
Perfect.
Larry Sanos, structural engineer. You're going to start demolishing it the most likely place to start demolishing that building is probably in the area of the debris pile, which unfortunately is the area of concern with respect to victims. So that there's concern about the building is close to an alley, close to adjacent buildings on the south side. So the contractor would have to take care not to damage any adjacent property or city or public.
John, and then I'll come back. Then I'll come back over here.
I think I heard two different things regarding the structural engineer report that Wool contracted with the Davenport firm. I heard earlier that the report was submitted and it was deemed structurally sound, and then I heard later that the report was submitted and it required additional repairs. What is there?
Yep, sorry about that. I'll clarify. So in the original January report requested, so for that repair work, which was brick work, they said the building was structurally sound for people to stay in. So that repair work was done under permitted. It was signed off on. And then just in May, we had a second incident that required a new structural engineering report. The permits were currently pulled, and they were currently making those repairs at the time of the collapse.
So neither of those reports claimed that it was structurally sound. Both reports stated that it needed repairs in order for it to be sound.
So stated it needed repairs, but stated the building was structurally sound for people to stay in. The work could be done with people inside the building.
Okay.
Sorry.
We'll go right to left again.
And this is back for the
One more right to left.
I wanted to hear a little bit about kind of what it is that this report found, right? If it was deemed structurally sound, right, to habitable for people, I don't know, it raises some concerns about kind of like what the inspection process might look like, right? Can you give us a little bit more detail on kind of like why this was passed, right? Given that it did collapse this weekend, right?
Sure. So the current repairs being made at the time of collapse were not passed, like they were still in progress. The repairs in January met what building code requires for repairs. They were inspected by our inspectors, our chief building officials, and those were passed. So to in depth of what the reports say, I don't have them in front of me, so I don't want to misspeak on them. So I can get those to you and go from there. All right?
Get those to you.
Thank you.
I have two questions. Is it possible to do kind of a combo, like demolition while also continuing to search for people?
I can tell you from my perspective, with the knowledge I have, I do not see us doing a demolition with an active search at the same time. We will definitely have any recovery efforts will be part of a demolition, and that will be a priority as we move forward.
Amy, would you take a question? We talked yesterday.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
We talked yesterday, and you were pretty frustrated with not having any answers and not being able to speak to what was happening in the building. What is it today that changed your mind in support and throwing your support behind the city?
Okay, so I can't say my support is 100% behind the city. I can't say the support is 100% behind. All we want is Ryan to be respected. We want it to be taken and handled sensitively so that if, I said earlier he loved Jesus, he's probably with the Lord, but he also could be, divinely trapped. And that's what we're praying for. I just want the whole situation to be handled sensitively to that area, and whatever is the best means possible to extract that area, to see what's underneath there, and to also preserve lives and injuries to other of our first responders or anybody else involved. It's a tough balance. It's life for life. It's a hard situation, But what we ultimately want is them to find and recover Ryan. And I can't speak for Brandon's family, but I'm sure that's what they want to, and they want it to be a priority. I just would really hope that they would take the prior, that put that as a priority to them to get it safe enough to go in and excavate that rubble to recover what's underneath of there and make the steps of the action plan in order that way. So it's can be as good of a win as possible. So that's where I stand. And they did explain a lot of things too that we didn't know. So.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, two-part question. It's my understanding that before Lisa Brooks was found, that the building was going to start being demolished this morning. Is that correct?
No. The setup and staging of things was going to start to be happening. I don't know that we have an exact timeline that the physical demolishment was going to happen. There were things that have to happen. Permitting, staging, discussion, working. That obviously leads to a time and a date. I don't know what that is.
What made you guys comfortable enough to say in your email that demolition will begin and that you acknowledge that you believe everyone was out of the building and clearly
At the
that
time,
was not the case?
yeah, the information we had was.
Do you understand that potentially Lisa or these other two gentlemen that are potentially still in that building could have been killed by demolition?
We fully understand that. That's why it's not being demoed. We haven't demoed it.
But it was planning to be.
Okay, we haven't demoed it. We understood this our continuous evaluation of what to do or not to do happened in real time. Okay? You did not see anything moving towards that building.
In Florida, when the condo collapsed, it took 10 days before they decided to demo. Why were you guys so quick to make that decision?
We haven't demoed it. I understand you're homed in on that. We might have been saying we're going to demo.
Off your email that said
Okay. Well, I didn't send it. I didn't send an email.
Mayor, I can speak.
Okay, I didn't send an email. We haven't demoed it. We understand that.
So when we come to demoing the building, it's a priority for us to figure out to do it safely. And that's the problem that we're running into is, I've spoke about this before, we need this to be in a controlled manner. And we have used all of our resources, all of our technology, all of our tools to determine if there is any other life safety issues inside that building. Once we've determined that and we have no more indications or clues, then we need to start moving towards that. The building has not come down. As you can see, we didn't throw a bunch of heavy equipment in there and start ripping stuff down. We do not want that building to come down in an uncontrolled manner because that is going to cause issues for both us as public safety and the community. We want to be able to safely take that building down. I can't stress that enough. When you have a building that is that unpredictable with the shifting and everything in there, we want to be safe about this, and we don't want any more of the community injured.
Maybe Matt?
Yeah.
Okay,
I had a quick question. I know you guys are still investigating and the cause of this is yet to be determined, but we've heard some reports that maybe a car hit the building or, there was something that maybe triggered this. And I'm wondering if that's true or, there's some speculation about maybe floodwaters undermined the building or something like that. Can you speak to any of those?
So on the initial dispatch, it did come in as a car had hit the building. That is not true. There was no car that hit the building.
Okay. What about the floodwaters? Is that something that's concerned you with so much water in the area over the last couple of months?
I did not see any indications of flooding in that area. No.
Let's say Jenna, Maggie, and then we're done.
Two questions here. The first one, we know the name of one of the people unaccounted for that you believe is in the building, Ryan. Can you tell us who the other person is?
We don't have the name.
We'll get the names released when we can.
Okay, thank you. And then
One more and then.
Come back to me. I'm sorry.
Can I just ask our question a different way? Because the email did say, I don't mean to drill down on this too much, but demolition was expected to commence in the morning. To a layman, and respectfully, we get there's a lot that goes into it that people might not know.
Okay.
That sounds like the building's going to start coming down. So can I ask, did demolition plans change when Lisa Brooks popped out of her window last night and was rescued?
Demolition plans have continuously been evaluated.
Did they change from what you knew basically at noon yesterday when you sent that email?
So when we say demolition plans, when you start that, again, I just referenced, we're not going to come in with heavy equipment and start pulling things off. It's methodically got to get done. It could be hours or days depending on what we see. Because when they start pulling units off the top of that roof and the building starts to shift, that's going to change things. There's a lot of planning that has to go into place in order for us to do this safely. So we have to start the process, and by that is demolition planning is occurring. So,
But it's a stark contrast from thinking there's no one in there to a woman waving out her fourth floor window. So did demolition plans change when it became very clear that there are people still in there?
absolutely, there's new information that comes up. We had no indications from any of the responders that we had, any of our tools, any of the canines at that time. So at some point, we had to move forward. As this is fluid and flexible, we start moving to change once we had a new indication that there was somebody in the building. Hence the reason why we are talking with technical rescue teams and the structural engineer to figure the safest way to do another search.
One last one.
Do you have any idea of where in the building you'll be looking?
That will be determined on the consultation with the structural engineer and the technical rescue team.
One more, because you've been holding your hand up.
Thank
Then
you.
we're done.
Yeah. Do you guys have surveillance video of the actual collapse and when it happened? I know there are obviously several buildings in the area. Do you have that? Is the city reviewing it, and is that going to be made available?
Yes, we do have some video footage of the actual collapse itself, and absolutely, we have been reviewing it to try and determine exactly where, what, and why. And
Will you release it?
yes, I don't.
Our intent, I don't know about timelines, our intent is everything we have will be given to certainly the investigators and probably everybody else. I cannot commit to you when. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for covering this. I appreciate, again, our hearts go out to everybody involved, especially the families of the unaccounted and the displaced. Please contact the Red Cross for any assistance anybody would like to give. Appreciate your time.